Job hazard analysis focuses on the relationship between the worker, the task, the tools, and the work environment. This is what we're going to discuss in this video. There are 3 parts to a proper job hazard analysis. Break the task into steps, identify existing and potential hazards, and develop a plan to eliminate or control these hazards. In the first section of the JHA, you will list the basic steps necessary to complete the task in question. The second section is for existing and potential hazards. The third section is for recording suggestions to eliminate and control each hazard. Complete the JHA by task importance as needed. Review the checklist to help identify common hazards and add these hazards to the corresponding section. A JHA should be completed for every task at the job site, but since you can't do them all at once, you should understand how to prioritize each task by importance. Tasks that have historically resulted in frequent accidents, have a history of serious accidents, or have the potential to cause severe injuries should be prioritized at the top of the list. See something? Say something. If you see something unsafe, fix the issue, or say something to your supervisor. In addition, you should complete JHAs for tasks that have undergone changes in procedure, equipment, or materials, and tasks that have little or no history or changes in the environmental or job site conditions such as snow, ice, mud, wind, cold, hot, etc. And ideally, a JHA should be completed before anyone is assigned the work. Once you start the JHA, you'll need to break down the job tasks. If you're working with a less experienced person, be sure to explain what you're doing. Complete the task and make step-by-step notes. Use action words to describe what's being done. For example, to note that you are starting a task by carrying blocks, you might jot down, carry blocks to work area, and then line blocks in a row. Next, you'll identify existing and potential hazards associated with the task. In this case, lifting and handling heavy blocks could be considered a hazard. Finally, you'll present some solutions to the task at hand to help eliminate or reduce the hazards listed in the hazards section. In this case, to reduce or eliminate the hazards of lifting and handling heavy blocks, workers should use proper lifting techniques and avoid bending at the waist or twisting. If you're unsure about why something is being done a certain way, ask your supervisor. The more questions and better understanding you have of the task, the easier it will be to complete an effective JHA that will help prevent accidents and injuries. Let's take a look at the best methods for developing solutions. This can be done by either finding a new way to do the job or by finding a specific control for each individual hazard. Maybe the task can be eliminated altogether. In the case of carrying blocks, perhaps a forklift can do the job and save time and effort, as well as preventing the potential strain and sprain hazards. Let's cover the whole process again using the following example. You are doing some overhead work. From section 1, break down the tasks into steps. Using the second hazard section, you notice that there are potential hazards from doing overhead work. There is also the potential for conduit or utility lines that are unseen and sharp edges from metal studs. Identifying safe work procedures for these hazards in the third section of the JHA, you put on your face shield and goggles for overhead work and Kevlar sleeves to protect from sharp edges. Following the process from both points of view, you can see how the JHA helps ensure safety on the job. Some jobs are only done occasionally, so it's important to do a thorough JHA to identify hazards associated with new tasks. For example, you might not often encounter a situation in which you'd be required to work in a liquid or chemical tank, but this would fall under the category of a confined space. As a result, you'd want to take the same safety precautions as other existing procedures for working in a confined space. Just as a point of reference, a confined space is defined as a space large enough to work in, but that has limited means of entry or exit. Confined spaces are not intended for continuous employee occupancy. During the course of your work, you should never enter an area if you think it's a confined space. The exception to this is if you're working with prior permission and training and working in conjunction with supervisors and the safety department. After you complete your JHA and before you begin your workday, Phipps requires you to stretch and flex. Review and follow the appropriate diagrams available to you, and always maintain proper form and procedure when stretching. Even though job sites do pose hazards, with proper JHA procedures and the information you review in this training series, you can stay healthy and injury-free on the job. Let's recap what we've just covered. JHAs will be conducted daily and should be completed for each significant new task or exposure throughout the day. Observe tasks and break them down into a step-by-step process. Identify existing and potential hazards for each task. Identify solutions to eliminate or reduce the hazards you identify. Ask questions if you're unsure why something is being done a certain way. If you have an idea of how a task can be done more safely, please speak up. If a task can be eliminated, consider that in possible solutions to hazards. For uncommon jobs, consider the information in JHAs with similar tasks to help you. See something? Say something. If you see something unsafe, fix the issue or say something to your supervisor.